So you're navigating a divorce in Snohomish County, and that almost always means figuring out the value of your shared home. That brings up a huge question. How much should you actually budget for a professional appraisal? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down the projected costs for 2026 so you can go in knowing exactly what to expect. Okay, so first up, we'll cover the baseline cost you can expect to pay. Then we're going to dig into the really reliable benchmark that helps set that price in the first place. From there, we'll see how the cost can change depending on your property type. We'll explore the common reasons why that fee might go up. And finally, we'll talk about how to choose the right appraiser for such an important job. All right, let's get into it.
All right, let's cut right to the chase. You're trying to figure out your budget, right? You need a real number you can plan around for a divorce appraisal in the Milk Creek area. So what is that number? Okay, here it is, $850. That's your baseline figure, your starting point for a pretty standard, non-complex single-family home. Yeah, we're just putting that right out there. But where does that number actually come from? And more importantly, what could cause it to change?
So that 850 isn't just a number we pulled out of thin air. It's actually anchored to a really credible industry benchmark that gives a solid foundation for appraisal pricing, not just for government loans, but for private work too.
And that benchmark? It's the VA fee schedule. Basically, the Department of Veterans Affairs publishes this list of standard appraisal fees for VA loans. And because those fees are public, standardized, and seen as fair, a lot of private appraisers use them as a practical starting point for their own work, and that includes divorce appraisals. It just makes things transparent and gives everyone a reliable baseline. And here are the actual numbers for Washington State. This is what's really building the foundation for our estimate. You can see right there, single-family home, $850. Same for a condo. A manufactured home creeps up a bit to $900, and then a small multifamily property jumps to $1,100. So this is our foundation.
Okay, so we've got the benchmark. Now, what does this actually look like for you in the real world? For different kinds of homes there in the Mill Creek area, let's translate this into a practical budget.
All right, so here's the bottom line. For a pretty standard single-family home or a condo in Mill Creek, you're going to want to budget right around that $850 mark to start. Got a manufactured home? Think more like $900, maybe a little more. And if you're dealing with a duplex or some other small multifamily home, the starting point is typically going to be $1,100 or even more, just because the income analysis adds another layer of work.
But, and this is a big but, that baseline fee, that's just the starting line. With divorce cases, things are rarely simple. There are all these other factors that can pop up and make the job bigger for the appraiser, which means, yeah, it's going to cost more. So let's talk about what those factors are. If your property is complex, say it has a lot of land or really unique custom upgrades, that's more work. And here's a huge one for divorce cases, a retrospective value. That means figuring out what the house was worth on a date in the past, like the date you separated. You might also need multiple value scenarios, or maybe you need it done super fast for a court date. Oh, and if you need the appraiser to actually testify in court, that's a whole other ballgame and a significant separate cost. And speaking of needing things done fast, let's talk about timing. A standard job, like the VA benchmark suggests, is going to take about 14 business days, so roughly 2 to 3 weeks from inspection to getting that report. But if you're up against a legal deadline, you can almost always request a rush order. Just be prepared. That quicker turnaround is going to come with an additional rush fee. All right, so you've got a handle on the costs now, but I gotta say, this is one of those times where the cheapest option is definitely not the best one. Especially when you're in a legal situation like a divorce, picking the right professional with the right experience is, well, it's everything. So how do you pick the right one? Here's a quick checklist. First off, super basic, but make sure their Washington State license is active. Second, and this is so important, ask them point blank about their specific experience with divorce appraisals. It's a whole different skill set. Third, you want someone who really knows the Mill Creek and Snohomish County market inside and out. And finally, you need the report to be bulletproof, super clear, really detailed, and ready to stand up in court if it has to. And really, it all comes down to this. Look, when you're talking about splitting up what is probably your biggest asset, and your whole financial future is on the line, paying a little extra for a true expert, that's not a cost. It's an investment. It's an investment in getting a number that's accurate, that's credible, and that can be defended. It's all about getting it right when it matters most.